Hey, welcome to Failcraft. I'm Hammy. Hope you're well and good. It is New Player Monday in this, probably about the 207th of our Hearthstone Half Hours. On a New Player Monday, we're going to be doing 2 episodes in a row if you're live on stream, twitch.tv/FailcraftCast. And if you're on YouTube, check out our other episodes as well. This is our New Player Monday deck run through, where we take a deck that is popular, that is notable, that is floating around, or that's been requested by you, the viewers, and run through it, have a little bit of a look as to how it's built together, and then we take it into the ladder at whatever rank we happen to be to get a feel of how it works in a laddering environment. Today we're taking a look at Strife's Legend Paladin. Now this has hit Legend this season, but none other than Strife over on Half Hour, who has legended in June 2015. So let's have a look at the card by card makeup of this deck, see how it works, and then what we will do once we've built it is take it on into ladder to see how it flourishes in a laddering environment. So this is Pally. Now, for a lot of years who have seen Midrange Paladin before, this is it's got hints of mid-range. If you have a look at the mana curve, you can see that we've got lots, turns 2, 3 and 4 here, lots of cards that we can play. Still a lot of them 4 and 5 drops, so again this typical kind of mid-range style, and then we've still got a few finishes as well. So this is by no means a solid mid to late game Pally or control Pally, but this is not the fully aggro-y, aggressive early game Paladin that you can also see sometimes. So it's sitting sort of squarely in the middle. Now what we're going to do is just explain the few little intricacies, the few little differences that make this a little bit different, and why we thought it was an interesting one to have a look at this evening. So first things first, let's have a look at the general style of this kind of deck. In a mid-range Pally, you are trying to stay alive in the early game. You compound your table advantage, you take control of the table, or you make sure you battle with your opponent and grab that table in the mid game with some very strong drops and good trades clearances. That means in the mid to mid-late game you push forward for that victory, and you have cards such as Tyrion and Dr. Boom to do so. Now there's a few things here in this deck that give it a little bit more of an early game flavour. It has the ability to push and do a lot more damage in the early game, and also some nice little tricks in the mid game to keep that pressure going. First things first, we need to stay alive in the early game. How do we do that? Well, zombie chow. A lot of people think, like with druid, you go 2 chow or no chow. They don't like the unreliability of one, but chow will help you trade against aggro very, very nicely. Purpose of chow is to be mulliganed for against face hunters, against any kind of zoos that you might come across, anything that's going to hit you hard and early. Chow you use to trade with minions to keep the table under control. Equality consecrate. Classic Paladin combo. You only have the 1 equality. A lot of Paladin decks, and especially mid-range decks, have been running 1 equality recently for the last few months. Now, if you really, really want to be controlling, you can go ahead and grab 2. But in this case, 1, just about okay. You've got other options for control as well. And don't forget that equality can go nicely with things like Knife Juggler and Muster for Battle, where you can actually reduce all of your opponent's healths to 1. And then you can throw things out like maybe a Knife Juggler and a Muster. That will let you do lots of 1 chip damage with the 3 summoned Paladins. Might give you an alternative way of clearing that table with equality, aside just using a Consecrate. But equality Consecrate, of course, one of your big combos. One big cowl, used to get rid of big enemy threats, used to get through big enemy tanks, also used in the early game if you really need to against aggro, just to trade on the table. This will help you win matches. It will also help you in a pinch to survive in the early game. 2 Knife Jugglers. Now Knife Juggler, Muster of Battle synergy, we'll cover those 2 in 1. Musters you can throw down after a Knife Juggler to get the 1 additional damage to a random enemy for each Knife Juggler summon. So Muster for Battle summons 3 minions. If you have a Knife Juggler on the table, the Knife Juggler will do 3 extra damage. Knife Juggler is also worth throwing down if you need to trade the table in the early game. If you're not getting the combo out, then don't be afraid of using it to trade, but ideally you're using it with a Muster to follow it. If a Knife Juggler is down and safe behind something like a Sludge Belcher in the mid to late game, you can still do that combination. Shielded Minibots, 2 of these, great cards since Goblins vs Gnomes. Get it out. If it's a mulligan, if it's against anything that's going to be aggressive in the early game, Shielded Minibot is a great 2 for 1. It's got 2 health and 2 attack, and it's got that Divine Shield. You drop it, you trade minions against it, you can make sure that you can get the table under control with that. Muster we've discussed. Muster not only goes with Knife Juggler, but also goes with Quartermaster. You've only got the one Quartermaster, giving your Silver Hand Recruits 2/2. Now if you can throw down a Muster on turn 4 into a Quartermaster turn 5, you can throw down a Muster turn 3 into a coined Quartermaster on turn 4. That gives you a very powerful table state with which to push forward and do some really nasty pressure. So another way of doing some damage. Muster can work in two different ways quite nicely. The All-Door Peacekeepers, changing an enemy minion's attack to 1. This will let you remove minions for less. It will let you punch through big enemy threats. It will let you nullify big enemy nasty attacking minion type things. Can also be used to allow you to remove things more easily. So if you've already used a big game hunter against anything with huge attack, this is very, very important. You don't really want to play All-Doors on anything that's attack is not a huge threat for you. If you're going to remove something proactively, then an All-Door so that you take less damage is fine. It might keep more of your minions alive, but really All-Door's better on big threats. Big Game Hunter, everyone running one because of Dr. Balance himself, but also all of the other big attack minions and things that can come. True Silver, draw, use this to control the table. You can go face if there's nothing else, but generally speaking, a held True Silver champion and using it against minions is generally more beneficial than just heading straight to your opponent's hero's face, unless of course they can't do anything about it. Double Consecrate, we've mentioned the combo with Equality. Consecrate used to thin up the table against aggro, a very important pick. Now, here are the things that make this deck a bit different. Defender of Argus drops in here. I like this because you can throw it on top of Quartermastered Silver Hand Recruits. So if a Silver Hand Recruit is made into a 3/3, and suddenly you throw down an Argus after that, you've suddenly got these 4/4 tanks in terms of Silver Hand Recruits, and you've got a really nice solid table, very hard to deal with, unless you're a warrior with Brawn. You have other minions, like Piloted Shredders, other minions like the Healbot and other things that we come into later in the game that can be very nasty and awkward tanks. Turn Sylvanas Windrunner into a tank, force your opponent to kill it, for example. So Argus can even be played on top of things like Knife Jugglers and, well, in a pinch Knife Jugglers, but also, of course, the shielded mini-bots. You have lots of things in this deck that are sticky, that have good health pools, and with an additional 1 attack, 1 health from a Defender of Argus, can actually cause your opponent a lot of problems on top of the Sludge Belchers that you have as tanks as well. So I like that little tech in an aggro-heavy kind of metagame where you're seeing a lot of aggressive early-game decks, or perhaps even mid-range decks. This Argus could actually save your bacon, so looking forward to seeing how that works. 2 Shredders, normal for the mid-game style of play. You're going to use those to make beneficial trades, get your opponent's minions out of the way, and hopefully get a good 2 cost that helps you. Pallies generally run the lay on hands as their heal. An Antique Healbot, a target for a Defender of Argus. If in doubt, throw it down and restore 8. Now, because you're mid to late game, really, with this kind of deck, although you do have a bit more early game bite, you can put a bit more pressure on in the early game, and you can afford to, you could look at tweaking out, if you're not feeling too pressured in the early game, tweaking this Healbot out for something else. However, the additional heal is always nice. You've got 16 heal back and 3 card draw between those 2 cards. So as an insurance policy, if you're just starting out with this style of deck, I'd leave in a Healbot. It's pretty nice. Faceless Manipulator. Again, this is a little bit different. Now, Faceless Manipulator, when Hearthstone first released, was in Control Warriors. Everyone was using Faceless, and it's kind of fallen away a little bit. That's not because it's bad, but I was so happy to see this in this deck list. Choose a minion, become a copy of it. Your opponent's played a big nasty threat, copy it. Tyrion Fordring, copy it. Ragnaros, copy it. You get my drift. Nasty big druidy tree type thing, copy that as well. Faceless can copy even your own minions, copy your opponent's minions. If you need more Sludge Belchers, copy your own Sludge Belcher, cause your opponent no end of problems, or copy their big threats. Faceless can be whatever you want him to be, and in a good matchup he can actually turn the tide. Harrison Jones. Now, Paladins, Warriors, Hunters, last couple of seasons, couple of months in Hearthstone, loads of weapons everywhere. If you're playing a lot of weapons, you should always consider Harrison. Destroying your opponent's weapon, drawing cards equal to durability, not only takes out a nasty weapon, but gives you a double tempo swing. Not only do you get rid of their weapon, but you draw some cards as well. So if you can draw them at the right time against a weapon class, you can really turn the tide of battle in your favour. We've discussed Quartermaster. Don't save Quartermaster for the perfect combo. With 2 musters, just the 1 Quartermaster, it is more likely that you're not going to get the Quartermaster out with the muster, most probably. So probably worth using the muster with those Knife Jugglers, and if you get both, consider it in the mid to late game. However, don't worry too much if you can't get the combo. It's not worth forcing, hanging around with that Master of Battle in your hand until it's actually too late to make any good use of it. 2 Sludge Belchers, solid mid-game wall, gets you nicely set up for the late game. If you've got yourself and the table broadly under control in the early to mid-game, dropping the Sludge Belchers and looking for your big winning card should get you in a good position. Sylvanas gives you a tempo swing, particularly against control and hand locks. It's very good to have that threat on the table, particularly when your opponent's got a lot of big threats on the table already. If your opponent doesn't have many cards, they'll look to trade away and make sure that Sylvanas' mind control, death rattle effect doesn't take place. The Black Knight punches through tanks, helps you win, and it's kind of a tempo swingy card. Now, Trump does favour things like Sylvanas and Black Knight, and will go a bit more heavy on these tempo swing cards, so that's why I said this was Trump-like earlier in the game. But the Black Knight, destroying minions with taunt, well, a lot of stuff runs taunts. If you're playing against aggro, you definitely throw this back. But if you're playing anything mid-range, the trade against a Belcher, the big druid tanks, if you're playing against a handlock, remove any taunted giant, it can be another removal option on top of your big game hunter, and is very valuable for that reason. Doc Boom. Well, Doctor Balance, throw him down, grab mid to mid late game table control, and your opponent got to deal with it. The biggest big game hunter target there is. Lay on hands, top yourself up and draw 3. If you're in a position where you're looking for your big late game finishers, laying on hands, getting that health value for that, and those card draws are very, very valuable indeed. Last but not least, Tyrion. Tyrion, if your game goes well, is really kind of a late game sort of icing on the cake, but sometimes he can be your ever-present hope in times of trouble. He is the guy who will come all the way back to you and help you get everything sorted when maybe you've been clinging on in there and just trying to struggle over the finish line. So that is our deck. We've mentioned a few things that are a bit more interesting. Let's see how this early game focus, the Knife Juggler and Must Have a Battle, is broadly more indicative of an early to mid game pally, sort of an early and more pressuring pally. Defender of Argus is interesting. Faceless Manipulator is interesting as well, like that. Let's see how these work out in a ladder situation. So I'm going to grab a little screenshot of that, as we always do, and the next thing we're going to do is jump on in and see how our deck is going to be flourishing or hindering. Now at the moment, as you can see, we're a very, very modest rank 15, but we will see how it works. I think rank 15 we'll still be seeing a few slightly funky decks. By the time you get to rank 10, you can get a solid idea of anything in that ladder in context. So we'll see how this deck works, more than perhaps how this deck would fare in a sort of high ladder situation at this moment in time, because obviously at the moment I'm not massively high on the ladder. Now we have Uther against Malfurion, a druid. I've not played a druid for a while. I am very interested to see how this matchup is going to go. So, because it's a late game matchup, the order is good. I don't mind the muster. I'm going to get rid of the muster, try and get something a little bit more early game. But the reason I've kept the order is because if my opponent is a druid, he will potentially try and ramp out nasty things in the early game with big attacks that will make me rather sad. As a result, the order is good for trying to negate that threat. What have we got? Well, we've got another muster, True Silver Sylvanas. I think Sylvanas is pretty nice against. So we see the Innovate come in as expected. Down goes a Tazdingo. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is a little bit awkward. I can just silence him. That wouldn't be too sad. Let's get our deck up so we can see what's going on. Beg pardon me. Coffee are repeating. I'm quite happy just to throw up a straight up silence. Now, one can see that there'll be a little trade here. I can't use my True Silver for a turn or two. I can Aldor, turn it into a 0. We're going to see the removal with the Druid Hero power. And in we fly, 3 damage. Now, could Aldor this, could muster with nothing else in play. May cause my opponent to stop making some trades. I'm going to lose the weapon next turn when I go in for the True Silver, but the Aldor will potentially give me some trades. Do you know what? Let's go for an experimental Aldor. Now, inevitably my opponent's going to ram into something horrific. We'll see how it goes. Here comes a Wild Growth, gaining that empty mana crystal. Nothing for the time being. Could just trade. Just going to go face. So I may as well trade this off the table. Turn 4, I can't do anything else. This feels like a nice solid play. Let's just get this out of the way. Could have gone face, encourage the trades. Let's get the table firmly under control. What we can then do is Belcher, Sylvanas, and we're feeling pretty solid, pretty good. Now goes a Belcher for my opponent, would have been quite nice. Now I can get some nice sort of 2 for trading here. A muster will remove my weapon, don't really want that. So other options I can throw down. I'll get this down. We don't really need a Belcher right now. We'll get the heal down. We are going to lose our Roldor, but we now are in a nice little table trading position. Sylvanas I've got in hand. I can still get that Belcher down, and by making some of these trades we can look and try and push forward for a little bit of a victory. Fingers crossed. So far so good. So worth mentioning at this stage that in comes Spellbreaker. A Defender of Argus would still make my piloted trader very useful. I'm also just going to go for 3. Controlling nicely. Spellbreaker, a little old school, but nothing wrong with it. Big Game Hunter, very solid. I think here what I can just do is I'll just throw down a Belcher. Now my opponent can of course choose to trade all of this away, but we're at the stage in the game where Big Game Hunter should be pretty useful. Here comes a swipe. That's going to trade with the little Slood, and my opponent can trade with that if they so desire. In comes a Shapeshift for more attacking. Now we just need to watch out for the Druid that there's no Savage or Force of Nature combo floating around. That very nasty, of course, Druid finisher that we all, well, I'm not going to say know and love, certainly know and mutter about and get slightly irritated by. Sylvanas will most likely get traded in some form or another, so this is why I'm actually just going to go into a full-on Paladin muster and make my opponent sweat a little bit and wonder where the Quartermaster is coming from. Welcome to Umbra joining us live on stream, twitch.tv/Falcraftcast if you're watching on YouTube. So, we have Will I Am as our opponent, and now suddenly we see that we're a Druid with Stalag and Fugen. He comes in Innovate for a 5-drop, Starfall, Starfire, down goes an Argus, and suddenly we have some nasty threats. Now I can go 2 options. I can go Tyrion, Direct Restore 3. I cannot remove, oh no, I actually can. I can, oh, we don't want to be playing the wrong card now. Now, no real option apart from to pop that out of the way, but what we can then do is keep my health high, knowing that Defender of Argus is probably going to get spent on trading against the Big Game Hunter. Now I can lay on hands, I can Tyrion, it depends if my opponent is aggressive or sort of stalling. So, a Shapeshift coming in for a little bit of control. Going to see this trade, I think. Down goes a Shade of Necks. Now, obviously, our Druid friend would have preferred to have that earlier in the game. We're looking at a Rampy type Druid, I think. Well, I've still not seen the actual combo come out. So, given that this is the only thing on the table, I think that I'm pretty happy just throwing this out there and going for the kill. I can go defensive with Sylvanas, lay on hands, and Tyrion if I want. I want to remove that shade as soon as I possibly can, because that could get quite nasty quite fast. Light Up denies spells, so no lay on hands for next turn, but we've got Tyrion that will certainly slow things down. That's going to pop up, I think. Just going face, face, face. Now, even though this seems slightly imbalanced, do watch out for Force of Nature Savage Rule. This is the big threat that all of this will kind of concern ourselves with. So I can heal bots, that feels like a plan. I'm just going to heal bot. We're going to get all of this under control. This is an overtly cautious play, I think. Now I'm going to just throw in my bombs. There we go. And with 23 health to my opponent's 24, an advantageous table position, should all be good. Yeah, for those of you talking about Twitch issues, I've had to broadcast in a much higher quality bitrate this evening for some reason, and that is probably what is causing a little bit of funniness. So I'm going to just play around a bit with the bitrate and see if I can get it to something that is working for you folks. Thank you for your patience. Let's keep these trades coming. Really, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with this hyper-aggressive play. In comes Tyrion, and that is going to seal the deal, I think, for us. So, dropping the bit rate a little bit, do let me know how you find that. And now, even with the second Shade of Necks, obviously our Druid friend wants to have the Shade of Necks hitting the table a lot earlier in the game, because of course you can see turn by turn by turn, if that builds up with stealth, it's going to get very painful indeed. However, at this stage of affairs, we've got a set table, we've got a nice heavy tank down in the form of Tyrion, we managed to stabilise, you can see that heal bot coming in there, and even when we were spell denied with the Lotheb, that has done well for us. Okay, so another star. Righty, so that's our nice little intro game for how this particular deck can work. We managed to see that we grabbed control of the table in the early game. In the mid game we sort of solidified our position, got ourselves healed up a little bit, and then when it came to the late game we had the opportunity to drop boom, make some trades, get the table under control, and then seal the deal with Tyrion Fordring. It was going to be very hard for our opponent to come back after that. So we now have a Gul'dan, and I will probably assume this is a mid-range. Now faceless could be very nice against a handlock. I'm going to throw it back for now just to try and grab things like the Aldor Peacekeeper. Anti-kill bots, not ideal, but we'll see if how that is actually going. It may be that we can do something with it. And equality is excellent, that goes very nicely with muster. We can even just muster for battle very, very nicely and then throw down an equality to trade little things. Looks like a zoo now. Here comes a coin. Shielded minibot, fine. Muster for battle, fine. Double Lepano, as you do. So a shielded minibot will help me start trading these. I may even have to go 2 minibots or throw down a muster, which will give me the tokens. It'll also give me the 1 attack weapon. I'm going to take quite a chunk of damage in this early game. It's very fortunate actually that I have the heal bot. I'm going to play that turn 5 pretty much regardless to get ourselves nicely healed up and ready to push forward. There comes one trade, and one of those will come into the face for the other trade. Okie dokie, so I'm going to muster. The reason for muster is that I can just take this out, and at least, you know, I'm going to take 4. I'm already 8 damage down by turn 3, but I have a table set, I've got minions that I can use to trade. Welcome, Chris Cats. Good to see you. In comes a Master Swordsmith, expecting a 1-drop potentially on top, but a Mortal Coil drops, and that's going to alas remove our little Paladin there. So that is tradable of sorts. I can't quite remove it in one. I can remove it with all 3, which is not ideal. I could throw down another muster. I'm just going to throw down this shielded mini, and even though I have to do this, I still have minions on table, still got weapons on my weapon, a nice little bubble there as well. Umber says I have a legendary to craft that I'm looking between Ysera and Alexstrasza. Well, Ysera are a great finisher for a bunch of decks and a whole bunch of fun. Alexstrasza is also, but can be used. Ooh, I have Convolicious Goodness here. Convolicious Goodness. And I look forward to crushing my Warlock friend in the old Highland Manor. Can you smell what the Quartermaster is cooking? I love it. I love it when a plan comes together. So this will give us an ideal opportunity, providing there's no Hellfire to be dropped, or no AoE to be dropped. In comes a Direwolf Alpha. People are asking how they can get keys, of course, for Direwolf Beta. Righty ho, do I just go for it? I could equalicrate for maximum sadness for my opponent, and then hit him after. Equalicrate? I'm going to equalicrate. Now, I could have just started trading my lilies, but I'm just going to get all of that so far off the table. Now remember, there's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15 damage burst next turn. Very nice indeed. So yeah, Umbra's legendary crafting demo. We already have Boom and Ragnaros. I think it depends on what decks you're playing, but if Ysera can go nice in a bunch of decks. Alex Straza, probably does she drop if you're playing Warrior Alex Straza. If you're playing various things. Oh, a 6-1 Poos certainly does some work there. And a Caller Crate would have been very nice on this turn. But I can just say, hey, oh, let's not miss the combo. So, the real question is, do I just go complete face? I think we can just go straight face there. It would be a very, very lucky Warlock to burst me down for 21. He says famous last words, given that his opponent has 9 on the table. May as well life tap. Is it possible for another 11 with 5 mana? Summoning Portal could drop a very big nasty minion. But that is a fairy dragon. Alrighty, there we go. Well played. So that happily illustrated for us a different kind of option. The option where we could actually push forward and use that little combo that we were talking about. Oh, is that a Golden Guardian of Kings? Not quite. And use the combo of the lovely Muster for Battle, throwing down that one Corner Master as well in the mid to mid-late game, and grabbing some nice control with that as well. Alrighty then, one more game, and this will be, and we should be all well and good. I'm glad that's working for you, Umbre. Long story short, for some reason when I was starting streaming with my normal bitrate, Twitch didn't like it, so I had to start very high and lower it down, and it now seems to be okay. And to finish off, we had another Warlock. So this will be our final game. If you're live on stream, don't go away, we'll do one more deck before finishing up. If you're on YouTube, do check out our playlist. You'll see our playlist in the top right of your screen. So I don't know what kind of Warlock this is. We played a Zoo last time. This time, I'm still going to go for a mulligan for early game options. Muster for Battle is really the only thing there. A shielded mini-bot. A Muster for Battle. You can't go too far wrong, even if you don't know what kind of things coming up. And do you know what? I'm quite happy with the True Silver as well. Some 2-drops would be pretty nice. Our Knife Jugglers, shielded mini-bots, Musters, Zombie Chow we haven't even seen. Of course, that 2 Chow or no Chow that we were discussing about in terms of your deck building. 2 Chow, you're going to see it, but it's going to be redundant quite a bit of the time. 1 Chow, hit and miss. No Chow, of course, you're going for other options. So, still don't know what's coming yet. Let's see what our turn 2 option is. If we see a live tap, chances are we're going to be looking at a handlock, I would imagine. Handlock, of course, being a late game Warlock. In comes the live tap. Could also be a Demon Zoo or sort of a Demon-infused handlock as well. A more mid-range one, so let's not count that out just yet. If he had light tapped, I could go all in with a Muster, but really, I could be walking into a Hellfire. A lot of handlocks also run, of course, that card that destroys one of your minions and does its attack damage to all other minions, for example. And that card, whose name I've happily forgotten. Now, this could be a demon-flavoured Zoo or a demon lock or something similar. The very fact that a Void Walker's hit the table, you don't normally see Void Walkers in a handlock too often. So, using our True Silver Champion for the purpose that we outlined in the beginning, making sure we control the minions, I can drop a Piloted Shredder, I can go for a shielded mini-bot, well, making sure I swing my True Silver Champion first, but a Muster for Battle after that. Righty, down goes our very simple Mountain Giant, so very, very standard handlock opener. Life tap, get all the cards in hand, and then throw that down. Now, can I remove that quite easily this turn? No, I don't have any of my little removal options. If it gets tanked next turn, I can Black Knight it. A Muster will just give me lots of littlies, it's not going to hugely help. So really, what I'm just going to play into here is my game plan. Now, I can save my weapon here to try and remove something else, or do some damage to something else, or I can just hit straight to face. Now the reason I'm not going to hit straight to face is 1, I don't know when another weapon is coming up, and 2, if I do get an Ordal Peacekeeper, I can zap that Mountain Giant down and use this to help it get traded off the table. Hellfire comes in, That would have potentially given me the opportunity for removal. In comes the Queen. That's going to be a 3-drop. I'm expecting a Dark Bomb. I'm going to just remove my Steam Wheel Sniper. And then blow to face. And you can see that even by the middle of this game, Handlock has done us some nasty damage. Now I can't turn it into a tank. I can take the risk of swinging and just removing it. So I'm going to take a lot of damage. Well, I think I'm kind of going to have to do this. It's not ideal. And then we can muster. There we go. So I've managed to build my table, grab my weapon, but as you can see I'm low on health and in a little bit of a sticky situation. Now if I can survive 2 turns, we've got Tyrion and lay on hands. So we just need to survive this turn and my opponent's next turn. So let's see what we can rustle up here. So we played a relatively aggressive couple of decks. Now this is going to be showing us really a late game deck in the form of Handlock, of course. Second Hellfire, because why not? Strafing us down, very unlikely for a life tap. Now this is where I need to stabilise and get myself going. Now I cannot heal, there's no point in harrisoning, or is there? Harrison is a threat that would do some damage. I could just Dock Boom. I think a Dock Boom is a reasonably good option. And I can threaten the lethal. Now, hard for my opponents to do 9 in burst with a Handlock. There could be, I suppose, some Doom Guards. It's an option. Big Game Hunter, that's fine. That's the expected control play. The Lay on Hands will get me nicely restored into the game. Twilight Drake, nasty little threat there. 7 health as well, not to be underestimated, and also not something I can easily remove. Zombie Chow comes out just a bit too late. Now if my opponent can silence a Tyrion, that could be threatening a lethal. So really what I need to do is pop my Lay on Hands. The Order is nice, I could have done with that earlier. The Iron Cowl will do a nice silencing job and removal on that if I wish. So I can enjoy that. That's going to get that removed. I can just take this out now. I'm going to leave the Boombot on the table. The reason for that is if I Iron Beak, that is of course going to go down to 1 health and is prime for removal. Welcome to Irving. Good to see you. I believe it's all the way from South America, I think you are, Irving, so welcome. Right, oh, just the 1 damage, not so fun. 7 out of 8. My opponent can now start dealing whatever kind of daring do they're looking to play. Down goes Nargus. Well, the silence is going to serve me very nicely there. In fact, I can just tanky remove that. That'll be good. So, I can just TBK. And then have a look for some removal. Now, the Shielded Minibot will help me trade nicely. I just need to hang in a bit longer. We know that I've got my anti-kill bot. I can throw that down. I'm just going to heal myself up. But remember, my opponent can also have heal bots too. So we need to be a little bit mindful of this. This is still danger zone. If my opponent throws down a big board, I'm in trouble. I need that equality to make myself nice and safe. Got the Consecrate, got the Order Peacekeeper, we've got some of our tools in place, got the Silence to punch through the tanks. But I should be looking for the win rather than looking for the control too much. In comes a Dark Bomb for 3, potentially another spell. Shadow Flame, destroy friendly, deal attack to all. Desperately seeking the attack and control plays, and this is where I should be able to seize the initiative. And I think that Tyrion is potentially the opportunity to do that. We've already seen a Big Game Hunter come out. It's quite awkward for my opponent to deal with. I think we can Tyrion reasonably safely. Let's just do that. Strip the weapon, and we will threaten with a Consecrate. We've got lethal next turn. Big welcome, Coldfire. Good to see you. In comes a Silence. Very nasty indeed. Could be removed. What could my opponent have for a bit of a 6? We will see. So Tyrion, I've still got my lethal, unless this dies. Down goes Nargus. That's a little crimpy, but it's not a disaster. Now that is a problem. Or is it? I play this properly. So there we go. There's our finish. Nice, well played. Righty, so there's a nice finish. We came in with the silence from one side, we came in with the nice consecrate from the other side to clear the table. We already had a table established, so a little bit squeaky. I was expecting some heal bots from my opponent there, but that is an example of how this Paladin deck can thrive also against control decks, but you need to get your pressure, your damage in the mid game, and everything nicely under control. So that's going to be it for the first half of our New Player Monday today on the Hearthstone Half Hour. If you're live on stream, don't go away. You're going to be live on another deck in just a second. If you're on YouTube, do check us out. You can see us at twitch.tv/Failcraftcasts. If you have a look here, Failcraftcast, sorry, live Monday through Friday at the moment. Stream times in the bottom left. Twitter is at Failcraftcast. We always tweet when we're going to be going live. If you're live on stream, our YouTube is of course above every 200 Hearthstone Half Hours. Deck guides, New Player Mondays, 2-minute deck guides, news, arenas, lots of Hearthstone fun, you name it, we got it. The website is also failcraft.org, so if you're live, do not go away. If you are with us on YouTube, hopefully see you soon. This is Failcraft and I've been Hammy. See you in a second for part 2 if you're live on stream. If you're on YouTube, tune in as well. Take it easy.